I've been stitching for quite a while now, and I thought I would share with you my top tips for improving your embroidery. And we're going to count down starting with number 10. It's a good idea to wash your hands before you start any embroidery, especially if you were doing something fine with silk or you're doing white work. So do give your hands a good scrub first of all. It's also not great to have your tea, coffee and biscuits next to your embroidery. As nice as it is to snack while you're stitching, you'll pick up chocolate and all sorts of stuff off your biscuits onto your hands, and obviously that will go onto your work. So it's a good idea to stop and stretch and relax regularly anyway. So use that as a chance to get up and have a drink and a snack if you need to before you go back to your embroidery. This is one that's easier to say than it is to do, but you will find if you've got everything to hand exactly where you want it, then you're not scribbling around looking for it, or you pick up the wrong size needle because the right size needle isn't anywhere to be seen. So have a little bit of order to how you work. Just have your materials ready to use, your threads nice and neat and tidy, ready to use, the right needles to hand, your scissors to hand, so everything that you need, so you're not spending time looking for it. And you will find that neatness in your approach to your embroidery will transfer into neatness in your actual embroidery. This is another one that's easier to say than it is to do. We're making embroideries, they're lovely and textural, you really want to give it a little stroke, but the oils from your hands will transfer onto your threads. You can flatten the threads as well, they're nice and fresh when you've stitched with them, but if you keep stroking it you'll flatten the threads down. So if you can, try and avoid giving your embroidery a stroke and enjoy it with your eyes only. So this is a really important one. Use nice short thread lengths. I've seen people do this many times over, and their thread gets longer and longer in a bid to not have to keep threading the needle. So the thread gets longer to make it last longer, but what happens is it gets in a knot which you've then got to undo, and you wear the thread because it's going through the fabric lots of times as well. So nice short lengths will make your stitching look much neater. So this one probably goes without saying, but I'm going to mention it because there's a few things that will help you. So everybody stitches in a different way. Some people like to be nice and straight and upright with a frame in front of them. Other people like to stitch on the sofa in front of the TV. So you know which way suits you best, but whichever way you do, there's a couple of things to think about. So I would say most important is lighting. People usually jump for magnifying glasses and magnification, but I think lighting is the first thing that you should think about. You need really good lighting to see what you're doing. So sort your lights out first, even if you need to get some specialist lighting, then you can think about glasses. Rest your eyes regularly. You're focusing on something very close, your eyes will refocus, and you'll quite a lot of strain on your eyes to do that. So just occasionally look up from your work. If you've got a nice view out your window, you can look out your window and focus on something far away. That will refocus your eyes, and it gives your eyes a little bit of exercise. And do get up and stretch as well. It can be quite tough on the shoulders and on your back and on your neck, so get up, have a little walk around, and as I already mentioned, that's the time to get a drink and a snack if you want to as well. I think finishing your embroidery is one of the most important things you can do. You learn a lot from finishing it, and the idea is you learn from that piece, and it may not be perfect, but you take that to the next piece and you improve on it in the next piece. If you spend all your time taking it out because it isn't quite right and putting it back in, a few things happen. So one is the fabric and the threads get a little bit tired, and the other thing is that you get a bit tired as well. You get frustrated with it, you get a bit bored of it because you're looking at the same thing all the time. So I think pushing on to the end and finishing it, even if it's not exactly what you wanted, will teach you lots. You'll have a finished product to see, which is always encouraging for you, and you can take what you've learned onto the next one. So try and get things finished as much as possible. So this one's quite high up the list. I do believe in this one quite strongly. Even if you're an embroiderer who's a bit more spontaneous and you think, oh, I don't really want to plan mine, I want to sit down and be creative and see what comes out, I think a little bit will show in your end embroidery if you do some planning first. So anything from getting the right materials and equipment ready that you need. If you're framing up your embroidery, do the framing up process properly. So pay as much attention to that as you do to the embroidery, because everything you do at the beginning will affect what happens at the end. And I think the number one most important thing of this part is iron your fabric. I see so many beautiful pieces of embroidery on the internet, on social media, lovely pieces of embroidery with a great big crease down the middle, and it's so easy to do. So iron your fabric first, so do those little bits of preparation for a much better end result. This applies to just about anything you do, not just embroidery, but use the right thing to do the right job. So there's lots of tools in embroidery that you need, so scissors and needles, and it's easy just to pick up the nearest needle and go, this will do, but if you don't get that right, it's going to make the rest of your stitching much harder. So get the right needle for the job, use the right scissors, don't use great big dressmaking shears to cut fine embroidery, or paper scissors, even worse, I've seen that many a time. So use the right equipment and you'll find it much easier to do the stitching. This one follows on from the other point I was making about using short lengths of thread. If you don't know how to thread a needle, we have a really good video, very popular video on that. You can see that up here. Do check that out. It's my 99% proof method of how to thread it. And if you're going to do embroidery, the one thing you're doing all the time is threading a needle. So you need to have that technique at your fingertips and not be getting frustrated because you can't even get the thread in the needle. So there is a method you can use that makes it easy. So learn that and then you can just concentrate on your stitching. Okay, so the number one thing on my list is not necessarily a practical thing, it's more of a way of thinking. So I believe it was Churchill who said perfection is the enemy of progress. So you're aiming for something that's hard to achieve, if not impossible to achieve, which means you're not very likely to get there, and which means you don't progress very far. And that's the same in many things in life, but embroidery too. If you've got these expectations that this thing you're going to make is going to be perfect, it's very hard to achieve that. And then you start taking things out and you redo things, and then we're back to that not being very constructive. So have a slight change in your thought to, I'm going to do the best that I can do. And if you do the best that you can do, you can't do any better than that. So you will always achieve. You will always reach your goal. You'll also finish your embroideries and move on and do other embroideries and learn that way. So I think that's really important, to not compare yourself with the standard, not to compare yourself with others, because other people will be better and will be worse. There'll always be somebody better or worse than you. So just aim for the best that you can do and you will always succeed. So these are the things that I've learned over the years of stitching, and they've certainly helped me to improve my work, so I hope that they help you too. If you've enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little bell if you want notifications of when we upload something new, and check out all our other videos. We've got over 200 now, so loads for you to see, and we'll see you next time.